Okay, hello everyone. I'm here to tell you about SAP, the world's largest cloud software company that you've likely never heard of. My name is Timo Elliott, and I'm an innovation evangelist for SAP based in Paris, France. And my job involves working with customers on the leading edge of technology, discovering the lessons learned and sharing that with others so that we're all more successful. I love my job because I'm a passionate believer in the power of data and technology to transform every aspect of business and society with win-win-win opportunities to improve customer outcomes and cut costs and help make the world a better place all at the same time. And in this presentation, I'd like to give you some examples, but let me emphasize a couple of things. One, as you can see, I'm using lots of video in my presentations. If you have any problems with the bandwidth, go to the chat and you'll find a link to a YouTube video that you can watch instead of this. And also, we're here primarily to answer your questions, first and foremost. So if you have any question at any time, stick it in the chat and we'll answer it as soon as we possibly can. So let me get you started with some guessing, and just to see to make sure that you're out there, I'm not presenting to an empty link. So who can tell me where this is? So I'll give you some hints. It's a beautiful Mediterranean island, and it's famous for its having some of the biggest and best nightclubs in the world. So in the chat, please let me know if you're still out there. In the chat, if you could try and guess where this is. This logo will give you a hint if you've seen anybody. Not seeing a lot of people in the chat yet. There we go. Okay, thank you, Gabriella. Perfect, got it in one. It's actually Ibiza, and it's the Pasha nightclub. Wonderful. So I just know you're wondering, why on earth is somebody from SAP talking about a Pasha nightclub? Well, it's because it's almost entirely powered by SAP. Obviously not the lighting and the music and the DJs, but the stuff that matters in the background is the finance system and the HR system and the planning system and the analytics system and the system that keeps track of all of the customers and their addresses and so on. That's all powered by SAP. So the bottom line, companies who are serious about you having fun turn to serious software companies like SAP. We're the world leader in what's called enterprise software, business applications. They act as the operating system, if you like, for companies and governments around the world. So we're the third largest software company in the world, and we're the largest European software company by far. I'm the proud European, despite my accent. I'm from Poole in Dorset. Now, there are about 230 million people that use our cloud software today, and it's used to make sure that shops have the goods you want to buy, to organize the ships and the trucks that it takes to get them there, to optimize the machines that makes those goods, and to manage the employees that are actually responsible for all of those processes. And not just businesses, governments and around the world. The European Commission, for example, uses our software for planning scenarios for budgets next year. We have around 100,000 employees worldwide, 145 different nationalities, and we're the 18th most valuable brand in the world, just after Louis Vuitton and just before Instagram. So if you're a student, your first job is very likely to involve SAP systems. So you're likely to be able to use SAP software yourself to book your training or your travel internally, or to get your expenses paid. So we are used by companies just all over the world. Our customers produce more than 77% of the world's beer, more than 82% of the world's medical devices. They manufacture 180,000 cars a day, more than 79% of the world's chocolate. And I could just go on for hours. But the bottom line is that analysts reckon that 77% of the world's transaction revenue touches an SAP system at some point. So we sell what are called Emission critical systems. In other words, if our software stops, companies stop. they don't get to manufacture products, they don't get to ship them, people don't get paid. So unlike a lot of consumer cloud software, it really has to work with all of the complexity and the complications of the real world. And it's a big responsibility, and it's not one we take lightly. We're almost synonymous with serious business. If you've been to the sessions this morning from JP Morgan and Adobe, note that we're proud to have both of them as customers of ours. So, we helped Adobe move from being an on-premise vendor of software to a cloud vendor, for example. So in a second, I'm going to be talking about what we do to help organizations become what I call intelligent enterprises. But while I'm doing that, please do me a favor. In the chat, could you tell me what you are studying and if you've already heard of SAP before this? Since I can't see you, it'll give me a better idea of who's out there and help me adapt this presentation. So please, into the chat, tell me what you're studying and whether you've heard of SAP before. While you're doing that, let me explain how we help organizations become intelligent organizers. And I'm going to use an analogy based on electric and autonomous cars. So there are three big areas that we help with. First, visibility. Autonomous cars use a variety of sensors, such as LiDAR, that gather information about what's going on. So they can literally see in the dark. We do the same thing for organizations, use sensors and the Internet of Things to help them track and optimize business processes that were previously invisible. So they can connect and collect data across different patterns and detect unseen patterns. But visibility on its own isn't enough. You also need to have focus. Autonomous vehicles gather vast amounts of information in real time. They're tracking everything. But more importantly, they're tracking the trajectories of everything on the road so they can figure out whether there's going to be an accident or not. They're determining what they need to pay attention to among all of that data. And that's true of today's organizations. They're increasingly flooded with all kinds of data. What's important in business is knowing what's important. So we help organizations make decisions by simulating the impact of different potential options, and then help them just direct their scarce resources to the areas where they can do the most good. And finally, organizations need agility. Watch and listen very carefully. Ouch. All right, so first let me reassure you, thankfully there weren't any people injured in the accident, thanks to seatbelts and airbags and so on. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't see that accident happening before I heard the warning beep. Car safety systems that are looking in advance, they can slam on the brakes in 0.3 of a second when they detect that there's going to be an accident, like 10 times faster than a human being. So the one thing that we know about the real world is that the future is going to be different from what we expect today. And so at SAP, we provide technology to help organizations respond faster to dangers or changes in the marketplace. So help them pivot their business towards the right customer outcomes. Now, if you add all those together, you get the future of self-learning or self-driving organizations. So, for example, this is the Tesla Autopilot in action. It's a great analogy for the future of digital transformation, digital business. Each Tesla car equipped with Autopilot drives along the street. It's using sensors to gather up all of this, big data, and then it uses analytics and machine learning, artificial intelligence to turn that data into a superior driving experience. And that's a lot of what digital business is all about, turning data into better products and services. But Tesla is taking it to another level in that the data from each car is sent to headquarters and shared with every other car on the road. So if you have a Tesla, your car knows what to look out for, even if it's never been on that street before and in that situation before. So Tesla has essentially turned itself from a car company into a sort of massively parallel learning machine. The Tesla customer experience is improving automatically as people use their products. And the company is gathering lots of the most valuable asset in the world, data, that they can use for new business opportunities. And we can do the same thing for intelligent enterprises, help them provide products and services and processes that improve automatically over time as people use them. It sounds a bit like science fiction, but we're already seeing examples of this in the real world. So thank you for, let me just check who we got there. So we got people from accounting and law and computer science and aerospace engineering. Fantastic. So first, let me mention as well that we are interested in people from all backgrounds, not just sort of data scientists and so on. We have a variety of different roles. And personally, I believe that the humanities and other roles are more important than ever. I'll explain why in just a second. So let me look at some real-world examples of how people are using our technologies. And this is our diagram where we talk about how we help in different areas of business. So we start with one of the most important areas right now. Organizations want to understand how they can provide better customer and employee experiences. So what we call experience management. We're in a world where social transparency means that prospects can find out exactly how good products and services are from existing customers in just a few clicks. So, people don't listen to the vendors anymore. Think about yourselves. You probably use reviews of movies on Rotten Tomatoes or products on Amazon or hotels on TripAdvisor. You want to hear from people like yourselves about a product. So this means that the product really has to be good. It has to speak for itself. This is Palladium Hotels. They operate luxury hotels around the world. Their mission is to turn their guests into fans. A fan is somebody who is going to rave about the experience on social media and tell all of their friends. So to do that, to optimize the customer stay, they've looked to technology, everything from RFID chips to mobile devices to providing extra data to virtual reality. Now, all of that information goes into SAP systems, and it's used to optimize the experience and figure out what is the perfect customer segments for their marketing and so on. And they've seen a big increase in their marketing efficiency since starting to use the system. So SAP Customer Experience Systems. And it's not just about big business. Some people think of SAP as only for large companies. Here's the exact opposite. This is a young woman called Kathy Williams. She found it hard to find practical yet fashionable clothes products and other accessories that worked with her motorcycle lifestyle. So like any good millennial, she decided to create her own company. She used Kickstarter to do it. She needed to quickly figure out what products she should start with what features and what price points and so on. So to do that, she turned to SAP software. It's called Qualtrics. And she created what's called a product panel. And in her words, it gave her the right data at the right time from the right audience to help make the right decisions about starting her one-woman business. So SAP is for all sizes of organizations, right down to an individual trying to create their company. Now, once you've actually found your customers, there's a huge amount of other things you need to do in order to actually get your products to market. So we provide what are called operational business applications that cover almost every aspect of modern business in 25 different industries. Here's just one recent example. My favorite brand is called Decathlon, a French headquartered sports retailer. I actually have all of these products and many, many more. And Decathlon provide these great, innovative, cheap products like this Easy Breathe mask. It's much easier to use than the traditional kind. Thoroughly recommend it. And during the pandemic, they were really happy because they used SAP, and so they were able to react quickly to the changes. And here's just one example. Some Italian designers called Isinova came up with this 3D printed valve that enabled these masks to turn into makeshift ventilators to help out in hospitals. So they contacted Decathlon, got the 3D plan so it fit perfectly, and then they worked with Decathlon to use the SAP system to figure out where all of the masks were, the inventory in English, right? Systems, take them out of the stores and get them to the hospitals where they were needed the most. So that kind of logistics is exactly what SAP excels in. Another quick example, this is the Swiss canton of Zurich. It's the economic heart of Switzerland. Now, this is their promotional video, and you know it's the economic heart of Switzerland because they have gold bars in their promotional video. Now, they were hit by the pandemic like everybody else. It was closing down businesses and putting people out of work. So they created a new system of temporary income payments. They very quickly got 30,000 applications. The problem was it was a very manual process using paper, so it was taking them 25 minutes to process each one of those applications. In just 14 days, we worked with them to create an online form and use our automation solutions to turn it into just 30 seconds for each application. So this meant an 85% reduction in workload, and more importantly, it was able to get payments to people in just 2 working days. So less hardship and help the local economy. So it's all about, citizen experience in this case. Because our systems are used everywhere around the world, that really, honestly, there isn't a company on the planet that's better positioned than SAP to help organizations get the benefits of new organizations such as artificial intelligence. Next year, it's estimated that AI will save over 6.2 billion man-hours globally. So that's the equivalent of around 30 million years of improved productivity. And because we're the leader in business applications, we can embed AI directly into the applications to make them really easy to use. Here's a very simple logistics report, for example, showing shipment. But we can see that this shipment in red here is going to be late based on past trends. So now we know that we can do something about it. We can choose a different shipping method, or we could warn the customer, give them a discount, and so on. So this is what we mean by real-time information that's fast enough to fix a bad situation before it affects the customer experience. So this is the business equivalent of that car crash, right? We see that the crash is happening, we're slamming on the brakes, we're able to do something about it before we run into the car ahead of us. Here's one for salespeople. Rather than letting salespeople try and figure out which of these prospects to call, we'll let algorithms do it. Which of these who of these people are most likely to buy, and what are the products they're most likely to purchase? And because it's all based on machine learning, the system will make better predictions over time. So it's going to get automatically better over time as people use it. Another area of operational applications we're extremely keen on is systems around sustainability. This is a product of ours that we've just recently introduced called the SAP Product Carbon Footprint Analytics, and it helps organizations track their carbon emissions for each stage of the product journey for different categories. And we really want to make that information as actionable as possible. And we've also leveraged our deep connections with the world's largest retailers to sponsor projects such as to minimize the use of plastic packaging. So we have a project called the Plastics Cloud, where we work with all of the largest retailers and manufacturers in the world to try and figure out ways to use less plastic and recycle more plastic going forward. Let me just turn to the questions here, if there's any. So thank you again for writing in. Legal. So are you producing or developing legal law tech or release tech? So law is not an area where we do a huge amount. We have a bunch of technology that is, I've worked with law companies that use our analytics products, for example, but the nuts and bolts of the legal profession is typically handled by other people. Thank you for the question from Gabriela, thank you. Let's see if there's any others here I can answer straight away. All right. Okay, so thanks again for letting me know whether you had or had not heard of SAP. Hopefully, this is of interest and making sure that you know more about SAP. Now, the next thing we need to, so you have their operational applications, but you also need to have a solid data foundation that you use as you're processing all of these different activities. So we provide what we call our business technology platform to help organizations gather and analyze data effectively. So quick examples of dashboards in action. This is Luka Mucic. He's the CFO of SAP, and he's demonstrating here how we use our own dashboards to access real-time data across all of our systems. So this is the system we actually use in our boardroom instead of PowerPoint. It's interactive. For example, we're doing it for our sales pipeline and forecasting. So right now, for example, we've canceled most staff travel. We're all working from home. There are no physical events. So we're using the what if functionality to work out the effects on profitability and to do scenario planning for the future, all in the cloud. This is a company called Ferrara Candy. They did a big acquisition recently. I just talked to their analytics manager. They literally now have all of the information they need at their fingertips to help make effective decisions. And it's not just about business. Again, this is an example from the health department of Morocco. They've been using our dashboards to gather data from multiple systems to get the insights they need for literally life-saving decisions about how to handle the pandemic across the country. We're also working with organizations like, we helped create the Corona Warn app, the most successful Corona app in Europe. And there's a gateway we're putting together to help applications from different countries share data. Another quick example, this is Parkland Hospital in the US, brand new hospital. They have one of the biggest emergency departments, the biggest emergency department in the US. Sadly, you can imagine what that looks like right now. We helped them put together a COVID-19 command center that gives them all of the data they need to plan the number of hospital beds and other equipment, for example. Some of that data had to be put in manually, so whether an ICU bed is being used or not, or a pump. So we helped them quickly put together forms to gather that information. It's got predictive analytics built directly into it, models that will predict a peak of the pandemic, tools to help them track the stress and the health of staff, for example. They use our conversational AI technology. They've created a chatbot. It's on their homepage, and it's a symptom checker. So it asks you a bunch of questions and then tells you what you should do next, cuts down on the call volumes, and helps patients get access to the right resources as fast as possible. We're also working with them on other interesting projects to do with spatial data, contract tracing with a partner of ours called Esri, for example. All right, over to you. Quick quiz question. You might have seen in the Adobe session, there was a lot of great new technology about AI. Which of these images do you think is fake, created by a computer? Do you think it's 1, 2, 3, or 4? Answers in the chat, please. Again, this is kind of just to tell me if you're still alive and still listening. But please go ahead in the chat. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4 that you think is the fake image created by a computer? All right. Here it says 2. See ya. It says 2. Well, a couple of us for 4, 3, 4. Okay, kind of interesting. All right, so keep the votes coming in. So these images, so hands up, hands up in the chat if you, oh, very good, I was going to say. We've got one cynical person, Jaden, good call. They are, of course, all fake, sorry. So they created what's called GANs, generative adversarial networks. This is where you have one algorithm trying to create fake faces, another algorithm trying to detect fake faces. You let them fight it out for several thousand iterations until they come up with something that is very realistic. Now, we are working with these kinds of technologies inside organizations. Adobe showed you how to use it to manipulate photos. We're talking about how you do this to manipulate or to facilitate business. So algorithms to help robots work together in warehouses, for example, or to accelerate finance functions. So instead of a face, imagine if these are invoices. Not quite as sexy, got to admit. But in terms of business, perhaps a little more valuable. One thing I should mention is we're big. We understand the importance of artificial intelligence, and the danger is artificial stupidity. Here's an example. So the background is that AI is always based on data, and data always comes from people, so it's always biased. So we have to be really careful in society as a whole how these technologies get used. Here's an example. Who is this? Answers in the chat, please. Right, it's a fuzzy picture of whom? I think I'm on a slight delay, so I have to keep talking and for just a second while you figure it out. At one level, It's the answer so obvious that I don't even know why I'm I'm waiting. But yes, Mahira and Gabriella and Daniel and Sahia, good job. Of course, it is, of course, former President Obama. Don't we miss him? But what happens when you put it into one of these special filters? Well, it turns it into somebody that looks very different from Obama, sadly. Now, one thing so remember that quiz question I asked a little while ago? Nobody chose number one. That's the middle-aged white guy. Why did nobody choose that one? It's because the database on which these algorithms is used is full of people that look like me. And so they do a much better job at making those faces realistic than it did for the other images that we saw. So you've seen the results of that bias directly yourselves in your own answers. You felt that the less white faces looked less realistic because of bias data in the background. We go to great lengths to make sure that as we use AI in business, we're doing it responsibly. So we have an external counsel that is really focused on making sure that they double check everything we can do to make sure it's not being misused. So very finally, what really differentiates SAP from other technology companies is that ultimately we're not really a technology company. We're really focused on end-to-end business processes. We're in the business of business innovation, and we have a huge ecosystem of customers and partners, and we're working with them all to create not just optimization of each business and each business process, but really optimization of industries as a whole, business networks, if you like. And there's one really important technology that I didn't talk about yet, and that's people. People are without a doubt the most important technology in any organization. So when projects go wrong, it's always about culture and organization and hierarchies and incentives and processes, and it's not about technology. So in our industry, we all need to spend more time on people, and the industry needs people with non-technology backgrounds. So, we need history graduates and philosophy and psychology and sociology and economics and law. I'm an economics graduate from Bristol University that just accidentally stumbled into tech. And it's a great place to be because it's a great industry. I'm very biased, but I think that SAP is a great place to work. Just as an example, for the list of top 20 companies for work-life balance during COVID, we're really good at virtual. We basically just went home and worked as usual. We're on the 2020 list of best places to work in many different countries around the world. We're very international. I've been able to work all around the world with SAP. We're on the top list of SAP's, the UK's best workplaces for women. We're very LGBT friendly. And we have programs like SAP Autism at Work. Great program, helps us tap into the underutilized talent of people who see the world differently. So in conclusion, in a world where everything's changing faster than ever before, and it's not clear what the future holds, technology is a great industry. It really offers an opportunity to help guide organizations, helping them survive in the present and thrive in the future. And I really do believe that there are lots of these win-win-win opportunities where we can help organizations use data and technology to improve customer experience and cut costs and improve profits and help make the world a better place. What's nice about the technology industry compared to some others is if you want to make a difference in the world, I think this is a great place to do it. It's not about profits or purpose, right? We're not taking oil out of the ground. It's about profits and purpose. We can absolutely help our customers do both. We believe that now more than ever, being the best means making a difference. And the best run businesses can help make the world run better. And we really hope that you can join us in our mission one day, either working directly for SAP or as one of our customers. So with that, I've done my part. Let me hand over now to Lindsey Rowe. I'll let her introduce herself, but then she can explain what we're offering in terms of placements. Over to you, Lindsey.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Timo. So looking at the chat, from my perspective, it's great that some of you have already heard of us. Someone saying they love SAP S4HANA, which is amazing to hear. But also for all of you that have not heard of us before, hopefully this has been an opportunity for you to really get an insight into just the scale of the things that SAP do. But I know that a lot of you are actually looking specifically for replacement this year, going into 2021. So I just want to share what roles we will have available and how you can actually then get involved before we hit into our Q&A session. So we will have 50 roles available. We are open for applications right now. All of our roles are available on Rate My Placement, and they're across multiple areas. So you see here, we've got technical support and software engineering, human resources and talent acquisition. We also take roles into our legal and commercial divisions, finance and controlling. So I know a few of you on here said you're studying accounting, but then also media and communications and sales and pre-sales. So there really is a role for everybody, whatever your interest level is and your experience. And as Timo said, we're really, really passionate about the idea of any degree discipline. I get a lot of people say, I'm not particularly techie, so I don't know where to start. Of course, if you really are technically minded, there's roles for you. But if you're not, we need absolutely every type of person in order to make our business successful. So they're the types of roles that we will have available going into 2021. And we are looking again across all degree disciplines. So please don't feel that if you're studying any other roles that we're not going to be interested. And we hire from every single university across the UK. We currently have 59 placement students live with us right now, all working virtually. And they're across 30 different universities. You saw that Timo talked about some of our diversity and inclusion. Some of the things that we really look at is something we're particularly passionate about in the UK, and for our programme, we have a very diverse programme. And so I really hope that this will give you a better insight into what we do, and you might see a potential role for yourselves. So the next slide is just going to talk about how the programme actually works. So if I could ask Timo, next slide for me, please. Lovely, thank you. So in addition to your core role, so we have a onboarding process. So the first month is a dedicated onboarding with very specific training and also handover from the previous intern. So you're not left alone when you first join. You actually get to work with them for that month. So that's why we design it as a 13-month program to get a full year on your own doing it, but that nice 1-month handover to learn the ropes. We also have a concept called the 70-30 split. And really what that's about is giving you an opportunity, whatever role you choose. Let's say you go into a business role, you may want to actually explore sales, or you might want to explore legal. You have the opportunity to get involved in other projects whilst you're on placement with SAP. We make sure that you get a buddy as part of it, someone that's not just your direct team and your manager, but someone that you can really help you with your personal development and act as a bit of a mentor as well to you. There's plenty of networking opportunities, both internally and externally. So with 100,000 staff worldwide, there's lots of people that you'd get to meet. But also we have over 21,000 partners worldwide that we work with, and also our customers. So you get a lot of exposure there. And when we talk about genuine responsibility, this comes out in our RMP reviews a lot. So again, if you check SAP out on Rate My Placement's website, you'll see people talking about they were surprised how much actual autonomy and responsibility they're given. And that's a really important part for us. So as well as the core role, it's the community as well. So with 50 roles available, you build up a massive network between yourselves where you learn and share together, and we see people go on to their graduate roles and still have those friendships and professional relationships as well. One of the things that Timo talked about was purpose, and it's a really important part for SAP. But to be able to have the impact that we have, you of course need to be a profitable organisation that has the scale to really make a difference. So we run a number of CSR programs globally and locally in the UK. Some examples of these: we're currently working with the co-op to ensure that we're supporting children in vulnerable areas across the UK to get access to the right technology and learn things like machine learning and app development. So we're doing that directly within schools. We work closely with the Prince's Trust in the UK, and also a number of other charities. So we also do a lot around social enterprises. So in the UK, we've changed a lot of our own procurement to make sure that we're buying from organisations that can really make a difference. We even moved our coffee shop in our offices to being a coffee shop that helps people get out of homeless situations and into work. And then finally, on top of the great salary that we offer, we also have Appreciate Awards. So it's an internal system and scheme. So as you're working on programs and engaging with teams, you have the chance to get Appreciate Awards, which you can convert into vouchers. So we definitely find our students really love this scheme because it can really help get you through some of the tougher times financially. So hopefully that gives you a bit more insight. But now we're ready for both Timo and I to answer any questions. So if it's about the program, but obviously if you want to really talk about technology, then Timo's here as well.
So we have one already for you from Jaden Slatter. Are you able to apply for multiple placements at SAP? I guess you can't have two jobs at the same time, but...
Yeah, great question, Jaden. So I know that you joined us earlier this morning as well to find out about our roles. You can apply for multiple placements. My recommendation, though, would be to apply for no more than two, because the teams would really be looking at where's the interest, what's so if you sort of thought, well, I'll just try and get legal, HR and business. But if you think actually maybe it's between business and communications, we would then have a discussion to look at where you might be best placed. Equally, you can all contact me via LinkedIn, and we can give you some guidance as well. So if you think not too sure between two roles, we can talk to you about where your interest lies and give you a recommendation where to apply. I will make sure if you search for me on LinkedIn, so Lindsey Rowe, I'll just put that in here. I'll get my link added shortly as well for LinkedIn. But please connect with me. Very happy to give advice on which role types to consider.
Okay, and please keep your questions coming. This is the audience participation part. I just put my LinkedIn in there as well if you're ever interested in following me. Just while we're waiting for questions, one that does come up is people ask me, how do you do this? So if you're interested in finding out how you do a virtual studio and present in front of PowerPoint slides and things, you'll find in LinkedIn one of my recent articles that explains in lots of details how exactly you do it and what kind of technology you need and so on. And I also want to put in a pitch for those Appreciate Awards. I have received some of them for helping out other teams, and it's a lovely thing to get. Question for you, Lindsey, I believe, from Mary Christine Schmidt.
The recruitment process. Yeah, I can see that. Thank you. So, yes, we will be going fully virtual. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Obviously, there's still a huge amount of uncertainty across the UK at the moment. So we're following all government guidance. We moved to fully virtual for our current placement. We'd hired everyone, thankfully, just before it landed in March, so everyone was hired by the end of February. So we did turn everything into a virtual environment. So we will run our end-to-end process for recruitment. So we currently have application window open. We will then go into telephone interviews and screening, and then we'll go into virtual assessment centres where you will join in a Zoom environment into a virtual piece, and then it will be then it will be one-to-one interviews with the hiring managers, but again it will all be virtual for that. So hopefully that answers that for you. Wow, we've got some others coming through.
I had the honor of presenting to that team, and they're great people, I have to say. And in general, as a technology company, I don't know how it works for the interns, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in general we provide nice tools like choice of computer, iPads, iPhones, everything you need to work well in a virtual environment.
Exactly, yeah. All of the tools are available there. So Just having a look.
From Toby, and one for Zara first, I guess. What are some skills, technical and transferable, that SAP looks for in placement students in software engineering?
Yeah, so that particular role, so if you take a look at the, we've got the job specs available on SAP, but also specifically on Rate My Placement. With our placement students, our main thing is attitude, really. You know, there will be a couple of roles where there's some very specific requirements, but on the whole, even with software engineering, if you're currently studying and have an interest in that area, the rest we can bring out in you. So we see the placement as two areas. One is about your development, and also it's almost like a 13-month interview for you to figure out, would you like to work at somewhere like SAP, and do we think that you have what it takes to be part of the SAP family? So I really think it's more about who you are and that you've got a passion for technology, because everything else we can pretty much teach.
Well, and let me add a passion for technology, but applied technology. So I'm an innovation evangelist. I spend lots of my time talking to real-world organizations about using technology. And the reality is that they sometimes end up with like these sort of mad scientist projects that look kind of cool, but they never get into production. So as an organization, we're really focused on stuff that actually makes a difference to real-world organizations. So you need technical skills, but also a realization of like the pragmatic aspects of actually getting real world software shipped out of the door, which is, it's a very different skill set from just writing code, and something we spend a huge amount of time trying to optimize.
So I think we've got some other questions about sort of similar things here in terms of looking, I'm having a look here. So Toby's asking some specifically around programming, what are the main requirements to apply? So again, same sort of thing, really, no specific hard requirements. You need to just be studying in your second year, needing to complete a placement as part of your degree course, and eligible to work in the UK. As that's our kind of baseline criteria. Everything else, as I say, is then role dependent, and we would discuss with individuals. Someone's asked then about coding courses, general tips in terms of preparing for a job. I really recommend checking out Open SAP. So this is the Open SAP platform for accessing training and getting a bit more of an insight into some of the things that we do. And also Class of 2020, and I'll find you the link shortly for that. So for anyone thinking about a career in technology, Class of 2020 is a UK-led initiative helping people identify internships and graduate roles across all tech firms, and some of the big four consulting firms as well. So they've got lots and lots of things that you can do to sort of support your CV. So I will share those links shortly. And I'm conscious we're probably very soon to be out of time.
Generally, there's a whole bunch of questions about like, what are we looking for? Like most organizations, we're looking for people with skills, but as Lindsey mentioned, it's more about the attitude. And we're a very international company, so hopefully, you know, open ouverture d'esprit, as we say in France. You know, if you do have any interest in other cultures, other languages, you're interested in traveling one day, these are all things that are probably going to make you a nice fit for an organization like ours.
Absolutely. And I think the other question, so the program runs for 13 months. But again, if you check out our page on Rate My Placement, you get all of the information, all of the available roles that are there. Someone has asked about graduate roles. So we don't have a formal graduate program at SAP in the kind of classic rotational sense. Roles that we have are all available on our careers site, but they would be normally closer to a graduation point. So we, as I say, we don't run formal graduate program. We see our placement program as our feeder for graduate roles, and also a feeder for graduate roles within our partners as well. Interesting. So someone said about cover letters. Yep, you do need to provide a cover letter for the role. They're really important, give us an insight into the areas of interest for you. In terms of CV, I know a lot of universities suggest you do 1 page. For SAP, for us, it's whatever makes sense. I would say for any student, it wouldn't be beyond 2 pages, but don't feel forced to cram into 1 page. I think that's definitely a bit of guidance from universities, but certainly not from employers. If you're looking at other organizations, they use a lot of technology to review CVs, so always be conscious of that. I'm pleased to say for this program, we hand review deliberately so that we can make sure that we see the right aspects from your cover letters, etc.
So I think, so technically, Lindsey, we're running out of time now. We're going to be available in the booth, right, from now?
Yeah,
so
we're going straight into the booth now, so we will answer all other questions in there.
So I'm getting all confused now. Here's all my contact information, LinkedIn, Twitter. I do cartoons. If you're interested, I'm #1 on Google worldwide for innovation cartoons. So if you are interested in innovation cartoons to use in a presentation one day, go check out my blog at timoelliott.com/cartoons. And with that, I think we're good. And